So may I just request, I think the names are there, some of the introduction is there. I'll just go by the list that is given to me. Invite them over and have them sit with me. I'll also invite myself. Pradeep Nair from Biocon. Thanks. Sri Kumar Suryanarayan from C6 Energy. Sohang from Theramit. Ravi Kumar Banda from Zyton. And Sanjeev Upadhyay from Jubilant. Yeah, please handshakes. No, I'm just kidding. So first of all, thank you so much for accepting the panel. And I think I must congratulate, first of all, the organizers to be able to pull this off. I think getting some of those guys who is who of the field in one room for a cause that is not close to dollars is very important. And I think it's a significant achievement by itself. So thank you so much again for being there. The idea is to get the maximum out of them, not to perhaps let them say only about themselves, but I think relate back. So first of all, I would not go into the larger discussion. Pradeep is from Biocon. Sri has been kind of a known face on the campus. He's a founder at C6, but has been the CSO advisor at Biocon for the last 25 years. Shohang has been one of the interesting stories of exit in last 5 years and starting a new venture by itself. Zyton, Ravi has been around in the medical devices field and diagnostics rather for long enough and shown how to be persistent and actually go to the level that you want to go to. And Sanjeev has been with Jubilant, but he is a product of NCBS, so I'll not go into details of that. But what I wanted to do is that in terms of Pradeep, I think we have met before and I know you. But the idea is that just to share how you, Pradeep is now in Biocon. Biocon and has been leading excellent work at Biocon as a group leader and also in the assay development for the biologics and so on. So would you be able to tell us about yourself, your work in very brief so that we can go through all and go from there. The idea is to perhaps see it very clearly. These are all scientists who have attained higher degrees, either excellent MScs, have been professors somewhere, have been PhDs, but how their science has grown somewhere. The crossroads, the very apt title for the day, is actually shows how they have chosen their own road when they were at crossroads and how it has been, fun ride.
Sure. Thank you, Taslim. So I started my PhD in Regional Cancer Center in Trivandrum. So I was in a cancer hospital. So I was like very much influenced by the patients who came in. So then I wrote to Sudhir in NCBS and took a postdoc at Sudhir's place. And for almost 3.5 years I was here. And then I moved to Biocon because I always wanted to do something in the translational side of things where I could do the basic work and put it onto the clinical influence patients. Luckily for me, Biocon was a great place and at the right place at the right time because at that point of time, Biocon was working at a novel molecule called Biomab EGFR. So that's against epidermal growth factor receptor, and it was launched. I worked a little bit on that from 2005 to 2006, and it was launched in the Indian market, and now it's marketed, exposed to more than 7,000 patients. And head and neck cancer is a major cancer in India because of the habit of chewing tobacco with betel nuts. So in the subcontinent, so it's affected, it's influenced a lot of people. Happy to do that. Then from 2006 onwards, I've been working on a novel molecule again, that is anti-CD6, which saw the light of day last year, where it was launched in the Indian market. That's against psoriasis. So it was a wonderful feeling to be part of this journey from bench to the patient. And you interact with a lot of people, a lot of different branches of Biocon, like marketing team. You be part of the scientific advisory board. In that how do you do scientific marketing? Make a justice, make a case for the molecule. and then convince the senior management that there's a potential for this molecule to go further. So you have to, what the work you have done in the lab makes some sense. So all these things have been a great learning experience for me, and it was wonderful to be part of that. Apart from that, I also did a lot of, we are into generic molecules, because a lot of the blockbuster molecules are coming off patent. And so Biocon is also one of the, I think, one of the first few companies to get into this space. So from 2008 onwards, we were working into these big molecules like trastuzumab, that's Herceptin, which was launched last year. So that's, bioassays for that too. So that's my background, yeah.
Thank you, Pradeep. So now I move to Shri. Shri, just again a quick background. Shri comes from a strong engineering background, primarily moving to Biocon. I do not know in between there was a larger stint or not, but Biocon stint was 25 years. I think he is one of the pillars of Biocon where it came here. And now he leads a very fascinating and very exciting story of C6 Energy. It's in news almost every other day now, today being Times of India. But that's a different thing. So it's a very interesting how a CSO actually decides to move on and start a company with IIT Madras graduates, and how has then been, I think that's a very important thing. Not many people have been able to pull the students from at the bachelor's level and pull them off and do that. And they are right here at CCAM, and you can see the energy they run with. I think you have to see them and meet with them to believe it. And I think it comes from mentors that Ariel talked about just now, because that in-house mentorship or external mentorship is a very key thing. So, Shri, if you can just share those experiences with us before we...
Okay, I can start when I was a student myself. So actually, I was a student of chemical engineering and at IIT Madras. And there was this, bio was something new and fascinating, and that was... yeah, it was in 1970. But many of you may not have. Okay, around 1980s. Let's make it. So I told my professor, who was, by the way, the closest thing to bio you could find in those days was environmental engineering. Okay, because they knew there was some term called biological oxygen demand. I don't know if any of you have heard that. So, I mean, basically it involved some microbes. So he was a very nice man, Professor Shastri. And I said I wanted to, do my own project, not do projects in petroleum refining and equipment design. But so he said, what do you want to do? Here's the lab key. And the lab was, they had a lab with some centrifuges and some colorimeters, where that kind of you put filters and you have a look at it. And it's true. And he gave me the lab key and said, do what you want. So I had this brilliant, very high-tech idea. I said, I'm going to do immobilized enzymes. And I'm going to figure out the pH and temperature profile of those enzymes. It was pretty high-tech stuff in those days, But the problem is, where do you get enzymes from? So the interesting part was that he had taken me along. I was one of these enthusiastic students. He always used to bug him. So he said, okay, come along with me for a customer visit. There was some customer having a problem with some effluent, so he took me around. And he, in the customer's lab, there was some bottles on the shelf, and it said enzyme. I said, that's interesting. And I quickly noted down the address. It was in Bangalore. So I said, so I went to visit this address. And who's there? It was a two-storied house in Cunningham Road. Okay, and I walked in right there, and I see this lady out there. By the way, this lady is Kiran Mazumdar. And she was, it was very strange. So I was sitting there in the reception. There comes a clickety-clack of heels down the things, and this lady comes in and starts typing on that telex machine. I think she's a typist. So then I figure out she's actually the managing director. So, okay, so I met her. And she had just started Biocon, okay, and it was in a garage somewhere in Koramangala. And then I was, to cut a long story short, I said, look, I'm here to buy enzymes. And her eyes lit up. So maybe she thought she'd make a, big sale or something like that. And so how much do you want to buy? I said, I have 200 rupees. And that too comes out of my own pocket because my project doesn't afford this thing. So she was a little disappointed, I think. And anyway, two weeks later, I'm sitting in the mess table, and along comes this big green packet. And that there's some 50 grams of enzyme in each packet. She said, I decided to give it to you free because you said you couldn't afford it. So I went back to this lab. Okay? Oh, by the way, those enzymes are all imported at that time, but it's okay. I went back to this lab. Now I have to do this temperature profile. Now I don't have a thermostated water bath. So you know how it is in IIT. You have this wing, and you have all these branches of engineering. So I told my guy who's 1 year my junior, probably in third year, I need a thermistor. Can you fix that up for me? So yeah, we took an immersion heater, we fixed it up. We actually made a working thermostated water bath, and I actually got my project out. Okay. I think the message here is that you have to have people who believe in you. You have to have mentors, and you just have to figure out what you love to do. And I think that message will come through over and over again. And then I went on to do my master's at IIT Delhi, and then I wanted to go abroad for a PhD. Went back to Kiran and said, which university do you think out of all these I should have applied to? She said, why don't you join me? I said, what? Because we're thinking of setting up an R&D division. So that was in '83, and I was with Biocon. We set up, it was a cement floor. It was great fun. In IIT those days, almost everybody would go abroad. Okay, whenever I used to visit the office, the US, it would be a joke, right? Now all 42 of us are here. Okay, so, but I was the guy who stayed back because I thought it was very important to do something in India for India. I've always been passionate about that. And that's the story of my life, basically. So after Biocon, we had very able people like him coming in. And so I said, maybe it's time to fade away. And so I told Kiran, look, you know what? I want to do other things in life. Like what? I want to go work for the government. So I saw an opportunity. So I went to work for the government. I took a 95% cut in my salary and went to work for the government. And I had great fun because it was in that 1.5 years in Delhi that my children had grown up and gone away. So we were there. We worked with the Department of Biotechnology, created all these fabulous schemes, which I thought were very sleek schemes. Created BIRAC, and I say which I thought was sleek because I never knew about 3 years later C6 Energy was going to apply for one of them, and it doesn't look quite the same when you're applying for it and you're creating it. So it was great fun. I was the CEO of the Translational Health Science Cluster, one of the 3 clusters that were conceived of. One of them is this Bangalore cluster, by the way. Okay. And I was also at that time, and again, thanks to a mentor of mine in college. I remember when he was Professor K.B. Ramachandran. He, in IIT Delhi, he was back in IIT Madras. He said, why don't you come back and be a adjunct professor? So I went back on, anyway, it was nice to come back to IIT, spend have a few cups of coffees with students, no obligations whatsoever. And then I ran into this group of students who wanted to do the iGEM competition. And one of you, Mukund was actually mentoring them. Okay, so this iGEM students, and they wanted some funding. So I said, okay, we'll give you that funding. And I forgot about it. And about 6 months later, they actually won the competition, and I was like thrilled. I said, what do you want to do in your life? You're 1 year more in college. How about just doing something which actually creates a difference for India? You have nothing to lose. And we started ideating about that, and one thing led to the other, and it was such a brilliant idea that they all came up with, which was basically how to solve India's energy needs. I think it's one of the most sustainable solutions that I've come across. I was very excited. So I said, this is far too exciting to miss out. You don't get an opportunity to work with young, bright people like this. So I told Professor Bhan, I'm giving up my job in Delhi. Anyway, I was losing a lot of my hair there. And I came back, and it was C6 Energy. And we were really fortunate to find a place like this in C Camp and meet all the wonderful people that we have on this campus. But I'm having a great time. I'm enjoying myself.
Thanks, Sri. And I think this is one thing that, moving towards your passion, can do to you. I think hopefully we'll have some hair regeneration as well down the line to help us that. I didn't mean that way. But no, that's very exciting to know, because I think only by doing it, and I'm seeing, those guys so often now that it's by rubbing off to others around as well, and that's a contribution that we wanted. Shohang, now I come to you. You are a product of TIFR through your masters. Then you went for further research, and then you came back. I think you were part of Avista for a while, and Millipur, and then you Kavita was right? And then you started your own company, which has an exit, and now you have started a very exciting one. And I gather that it is only Indian company in the BioBetter report that has come out. That's very exciting, and that's very good. So if you can share a bit more about the journey. Of course, we have to run back to these guys for questions, sure. But if you can briefly do that. Yeah,
sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. Mine is much shorter than Sri.
Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say, because I have much less to say. So but I should, since it ended with Sri, I should start with Sri. So he's one of the key mentors. We keep going back to him pretty much every week, taking advice on Theramite. No, till the company is running, your advice is good. So Theramite, we started in 2013, July of 2013, and the basis, the premise of this company is to do something that the therapeutic line in India is not really attempting to do. If you see the companies, big or small, are basically into biosimilars, which is kind of a fallout of our success in the generics field. So we decided biosimilar, there are other people doing biosimilars, but that's purely a cost game. So what can we do where we can do research in India where finding funding is not very easy? It's definitely not as easy in the US or Europe. So what kind of research can we do where we can compete with the innovators without really having to spend the billions of dollars? So that's kind of where we came from, and we've been discussing from the very inception of the company with Sri and what are the kind of things we can do. So our initial investment are into technology platforms, which we can then combine to make either improve on existing drugs, or even better, we can make new drugs for new targets as well as existing targets. So we are working on mammalian cells as well as microbial cells. We are looking at peptides which are currently synthesized, and if we can make them in fermentation mode, which will make it much more economical, and then we can try to make newer formulations, oral formulations for products which are currently injected, and stuff like that. So we're just a year old. In fact, July 22nd, we completed a year. We have filed 4 provisional patents already on coming out of the platform technologies. So that's Theramite. And before I started, and in a way it was easier for us to start Theramite in terms of funding, because before starting Theramite, I had started another company called InBioPro in 2007, which we sold to Strides Arcolab in November of 2012. So we ran that for about close to 6 years. We didn't start it with the intention of selling, but the fact that we managed to sell it, we completed a whole cycle of starting a company to selling a company. So investors looked at us in a whole new light. So it was much easier to attract investment. We could actually choose who we wanted investment from, so at least the initial investment from. Now going forward, we will need more. So InBioPro was a more opportunistic startup. Before InBioPro, I was at Millipore. I was heading the process development lab at Millipore, which kind of gave me exposure to all the pharma companies in India, as well as a few in the US and Cuba. So that's when we realized that a lot of the large pharma companies wanted to get into biotech, wanted to do biosimilars, but didn't really know how to go about it. So we said, we will do the biosimilars for you. You just use your marketing network, which is your strength. And so we set up InBioPro. All we did was just make biosimilars. We had a basket of biosimilars, and we started licensing them out to marketing partners. We licensed out products to Lupin and Panacea. Products we licensed to Lupin, one of them is already in the market right now, PTH. And then when we were looking for a next round of funding, Strides came in, and we chose Strides as a strategic partner over a PE investment. Again, PE in India is almost, a draconian prospect. So Strides came in, and then, we lost the enthusiasm once we became part of a larger organization. So we had a lock-in period. We finished the lock-in period. We exited Strides, and we started Theramite. So in Theramite, I think our value proposition is much higher up in the value chain of product development, and we're looking to do great things.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Now I come to Dr. Ravi Kumar Banda, who has primarily, I think Ravi was trained in medicine from JIPMER before he decided to do his PhD, and then work in AstraZeneca, partly at Nimhans as well, if I'm not wrong. And from this across the different spectrums, then he also, after AstraZeneca, I think, he started his own venture, Zyton, which has perhaps one of the strongest company in diagnostics with the portfolio and the fascinating work that they have been doing lately. So we have been also interacting for several things, but Ravi, if you can share your thoughts of primarily, trained in medicine, got into science, moving on to also in a way in terms of academia, going to for international corporate, and now your own firm for last 10, 12 years, something like that. I'm not on top of the numbers, but you can share it. You can share it when you get a chance.
Thanks for calling me here, and it's really wonderful hearing again Sri and all of you. I thought first I'm the only one sitting on the stage with no connection to NCBS. Suddenly something dawned on me, and I felt a little emotional about it for a minute. I'll tell you what it is later on. Actually, when I was doing medicine, I was the blue-eyed boy of my medicine professor, Professor G.D. Gupta, who always told me, he told all of us, all I'm giving you is diagnostic skills. Any moron can treat. This was his statement. So I'm not making a horrible statement on the stage, but he used to say this. We thought he exaggerated the first part, but I think I realized it in my life. Profound statement. It is in the final year I got exposed to a neurosurgeon by name B. Ramamurthy, who was at the Institute of Neurology. He founded that at Chennai. He came to JIPMER, spent 10 days with us, because on a request. And I attended every one of his lectures, every one of his things. And suddenly something shaped in my mind. I said, I want to do neuroscience research. And the best path to that is through psychiatry. So when I said bye to medicine, of course, first they wrote me off at JIPMER. Then I went to CMC and did my psychiatry, which I don't put it on my CV too much. Diploma in psychiatric medicine, and never told them that my intention is to go to pure research. I didn't know what would be the weather after that. Already it is a very hot weather in CMC. It is then I got a profound advice. I thought I will share it, and that advice is not too far from the truth even today. There was one Dr. Marcus Devanandam, who is a great neurophysiologist. I don't know how many of you read his papers in Journal of Physiology, and he never wrote anything less than 42 pages paper. And he wrote about 10 or 15 of them, and 5 of them with John Eccles. So you know the kind of guy. So I told him that I got a PhD seat in All India Institute of Medical Sciences. I want to do a PhD. I'm going there. He just looked at me and said, I think you need a cup of coffee, he said. I said, sure, because that always wakes me up. I knew that he is something. He said, never do a PhD in a medical institute. They don't know science. Never do work in a science institute. They have no bloody perspective of the society, he said. Now, let me tell you, even today, most of the places is damn true. I dropped my seat at AIIMS and I came to Indian Institute of Science, did my PhD. And during my PhD, I was working on new brain receptors, mainly human brains. And I was still very, very focused until my 4th year on doing definitely work on schizophrenia. And that's where my connection comes in. Once I finished my PhD and I got my degree on the eve of Christmas 1985, so you can know my age, Obaid helped me get a position at MIT Brain and Cognitive Sciences Department. He liked me hell of a lot for a lot of reasons. So that's what I remember, certainly. It's that decision that changed me. And after that, I thought for a while. And meanwhile, AstraZeneca, now it is AstraZeneca. Now it is nothing, probably. They closed in India. It is Astra, which is Sweden, which offered me a job. And in fact, they said, what should we work if we have to work on tropical diseases? I gave a 40-minute lecture on 3 different projects. One on a parasite, one on a bacterium, one on a virus. Japanese encephalitis virus, Mycobacterium leprae, and neurosis sarcosis. But the interview turned very, very interesting. The person, when Ivan Astom, moved forward and said, if I allow you to start 2 of those projects tomorrow, and you be the project leader, and they will never put anybody on the top of you, would you still go to MIT? He asked. I said, no. And there ended the matter. I joined Astra, but there I learned another thing. It's a very goal-oriented research, and that too in a 7-star facility. I know some of you work in 5-star facilities like NCBS, but then 7-star facility is something you need to experience. It's an amazing facility. In India, in those days, it was a rarity. You ask for a chemical that is there on the 10th day on your table. It never happened in any other institute in the country. And you had a project and you had the right reasons for it. Within exactly 21st day, you got an equipment, as long as it just costed, in those days, less than 12 lakhs. It was that kind of a facility and that kind of freedom. We really enjoyed working. But the point is, I did a diagnostic for the neurocyst sarcosis. This is a tapeworm that goes to the brain. I realized to take it to the market, you need to be somebody different. The big corporates have small interest in small products. So I said, I'll float a company, especially a product development company, because we tried to give it to a number of pharmaceutical companies in India. Everybody said, wonderful product, great, we need it in this country. You please manufacture it in some facility, I'll put a box around it. This is 1991, 92, that was the status. So I said, 93 I formed this company, but it's very difficult to leave a facility like Astra. So the inertia caught with me. And then finally in 94 end, I resigned and walked out. I realized the company is alive only on the day I resign. Otherwise, it's just not alive. It's a paper company. Well, it's a long story. Today we are looking at molecular diagnostics. And I must tell you, in 2004, exactly 10 years ago, we were making immunodiagnostics for HIV, hepatitis C. Of course, we were the first in the country and all that. We had lots of awards, but no revenues. And it was in that status, of course, awards are a practical alternative to revenue if you know how to sell your company with a valuation, let me tell you. So that's not a problem, but I didn't know the art of it. So in 2004, we had a very good brainstorming session in which Professor G. Padmanabhan said, a surgeon's knife is being used to shave a beard. This is what he said. So you better change your model. So we said, we will go away from public health. We go to an individual patient's needs. We go to critical care where there is an emergency for diagnosis. When I say critical care, most of the infections kill within 72 hours the patient. So first 24 hours, if you can give a diagnosis, patient can be saved. So why not do something in that area? That to molecular diagnostics, where Chinese won't come and imitate immediately within the next 2-3 years. These are all the various criteria, business criteria, important we discussed, and we had 6,000 rupees, grant 6,000 rupees, and 11.6 crores plan on a piece of paper by the end of the day, and 6,000 rupees in the bank, 1.6 lakhs cash burn. So wonderful, we said. In fact, Professor B. Balram asked me at the end, are you comfortable with all this discussion, he asked. He also gave me a cup of coffee to soothe me down. I said, of course, when the cause is profound, means will follow, I said. He just gave up on me. After that, for a month, he didn't speak to me. He thought I'm a gone case. But you wouldn't believe, within 3 months, Astra called me and said, you're the only guy, first guy to get out and start your own enterprise. Astra started with the hope that there will be 60 enterprises around it. So we want to give you an award. And they gave me 13.5 lakhs as a cash. This 13.5 is, Swedish kronas converted into rupees, all sorts of fractions will happen. So, people ask me why 13.5 lakhs, so I just explain. So, that I took. In fact, by then, I couldn't put my son into medicine in a college which costs about 1 lakh a year. It looked tempting because it said B.V. Ravi Kumar on the check. I said something like, if your cause is profound, means will follow, means has come probably. And then I put it into Excite on account. And we started. Luckily, my son went to CMC. Of course, he's doing well. He's a hemato-oncologist in Fred Hutchinson Center, and that's a different thing. Things have worked out very well for him. But the point is, after that, our molecular diagnostics, there are turning points. There was suddenly an advertisement saying, can you do something for eye infections which cause blindness? So I went and they said, we have 12 PCR tests. Can you, because you are into molecular diagnostics, you now want to change, can we give it to you? CSIR asked. I said, sure. Then there was a meeting in which Mashelkar wanted to see the face of the guy who everybody wanted to transfer technology to. I told him it's pure nepotism. My professor of microbiology at JIPMER is now at Shankar Netralaya. My colleague at JIPMER is now at L.V. Prasada Institute. My own friend is at All India Institute. So they are just doing a nepotism work. I had to tell him. He laughed and said, so what will you do? I said, I have 1 minute to tell you something. Can I make a presentation? I said, if somebody has got an eye infection, and within 72 hours the retina is going to detach, if you poke the eye and take 1 drop of the eye fluid, and how many PCRs can you do? Shankar Netralaya said they can do 2. L.V. Prasad said they can do 1. Yes, you have done. And that is negative. What are you going to do? There was silence. So Mashelkar asked me, are you a pessimist or do you have an alternative? I said, if I take that 50 microliters of aqueous and purify the DNA and do a multiplex for all 26 organisms I'm looking for, in a single sample, in a single test, in 7 hours process time, will it not be? He said, wonderful. I think this is a project worth failing for. This is what he said. That's the statement. And he sanctioned money within exactly 3 hours. We got a sanction of 5 crores. All the institutes needed all the money to help me, and I needed 75 lakhs as a loan. So the whole thing was put. And there the journey started. And then we made such a similar thing for sepsis. We made for encephalitis. We made for the infections of the cancer patients, and so on and so forth. Today, we are very happy. I'm back to my JIPMER days, my original aim, wherein, not exactly schizophrenia, but recently we proved that if our sepsis test is used on day 1, it reduces neonatal mortality by 82%. This paper has gone to Journal of Pediatric Infectious Diseases from JIPMER. It's a JIPMER study. They have done on a 500 massive number of cases. So suddenly Karnataka government is asking, how do we adopt it and reduce our neonatal mortality? And suddenly there is a question from Tamil Nadu government now. So maybe I'm back to public health in some way, if this can work out, a PPP model or something. So what I'm saying is, I'm the last guy to advise anybody in a career. I never stuck to any career. So I was wondering actually while coming here, what the hell am I going to say? I mean, every time I go to a career place, I really feel uncomfortable. I didn't stick to medicine, I didn't stick to science, I didn't stick to pure entrepreneurship. I do lots of gray zone work. But what I do, I always enjoy. One thing I can tell you that a lot of people ask me, this company went down the tube twice. Both times we came out. They asked, how do you survive all this? Do you need to do this? Some people ask. I have only one answer. This answer I gave very first time, and later on I heard that answer in a movie. And I felt, oh, damn good. I made a great answer. I said, if I don't do, nobody else will do. I said. And I think Die Hard, Bruce Willis makes the statement, why do you have to do all this? He says, if I don't do, nobody else will do. I thought, wow, this guy is like me. So that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for getting very fascinating again. And while I think you perhaps narrated your journey again and all through, and hopefully with Sanjeev as well, we'll get different flavors of how scientific careers progress, and that's what I think the entire idea of this panel discussion hopefully is, that you see the different flavors that you emerge, and perhaps not the structures which are known for many years and which people think they have to follow those. So with this, I think I'll let Sanjeev come. Sanjeev has been a product of NCBS with Matthew Kamar, and now he is with Subulun. So Sanjeev, all yours.
Hi. This place still feels like home, and it feels like it was yesterday I was here. I don't have a very long career like all the other panelists, but I'll talk about only 2 decisions and why I made those decisions. One, when I was finishing up my PhD, like anybody else, anybody who is finishing is like fed up. You want to get out as soon as possible. The first opportunity a postdoc comes in, just jump in. When I was applying for postdoc, that was the time it was getting a little bad than what it was in previous years. And I had only 2 options to choose from. And one where I had to learn about the structure and function of potassium channel, which I was doing all through my PhD. And the another one where there was a lab which had already taken a peptide almost to clinical stages for autoimmune diseases. So I opted for the second one. I thought enough of a structure and biology, I have done, nothing is coming out of it. Let me try something which is like more clinical oriented. And then I was advised, why are you going to that lab? This lab has already given a molecule. They have offered what they had to offer. I said, okay, let me see what I can do there. And till the time I went there, I was hoping to make, my understanding better of autoimmunity, which I did not work in my PhD. When I went there, I was given a project to work on a transplant model and to see whether this immune suppressor works in transplant model. One fine day, I realized that the animals which I have been injecting too much of this drug were actually rejecting the graft but losing weight. And I said, what the hell is this happening? And then one day, my professor said, you are not doing something quite right. I have done it for 20 years on the same peptide. Nothing is happening. Why is it happening with you? So he cross-checked, and he cross-checked again with another person. And the animals were losing weight, especially more so when they were put on a high-fat diet. And I said, then I told him that, look, there is a story, we are missing something here. It's actually anti-obesity drug probably we are working on, and we don't know. He said, okay, let's try this. And sure, so across the campus there was another person who was a diabetologist. He called him and he said, do you have an animal model to test this? He said, yes, I have some mice which came yesterday, and my grad student is off on a leave. We have all that mice, you can use it. So there I go to his lab and his animal facility. I started doing it, and sure, on 4th day we started seeing weight loss. And that's where the project took off. In 1.5 years, we were able to establish that this peptide was actually activating brown fat and burning more calories. And at around the same time, there was a piece written in Nature that the holy grail of obesity can be enhancing brown fat activity. And that was the time when we published this paper. And but after publishing this, my PI was very happy, and he was hoping that the monies will flow in, but they did not. And he said, okay, we are done. You can go for yourself. If you want, I can write you to your recommendations. And actually, he started writing me recommendations. I mean, even before I do it, he wanted to write to some professors there and said, you can go to such and such lab and you can work on diabetes. But at the same time, I also was visiting India for a marriage, and then I visited Jubilant, where we talked about some of the possibilities. They were interviewing me for diabetes. After a while, when I went back to US, I had some postdoc offers, and I had decided to come back. But at the same time, Jubilant said, oh, you know what, we're thinking of diabetologist, someone, but that is not happening. So I said, okay, this is done. I was already packed up to come back to India, and one day they called me and said, there is a neuroscience vacancy, would you like to come in? I said, I don't know any neuroscience. The only thing I know in neuroscience is potassium channel, which I have worked on. Apart from that, I don't know anything. He said, that's good enough, we'll teach you rest of it. And there I am, and there I am doing the neuroscience, and now I am working on pain and all kind of things. But what I wanted to tell you was that at point when I was going for postdoc, I was not advised to go on a lab which many seniors would have felt that was worthwhile. But I did because I felt I'm good at that point. I wanted to learn that, and that helped. On the second case, again, when I was coming back to India, I had a situation evolving where I was almost about to join a educational institution as a research faculty, not as good as NCBS, but good enough for me to do some research. But at that point, I wanted to join the company precisely because of the reason that for the indication for which I have worked on the postdoc, that is diabetes, the drug has gone into clinical trials in the Netherlands. It's already past phase 1. But I wanted to learn how the drug discovery general process is happening. What happens, because when I ended up there, it was almost in a company scenario, it is like lead optimization. But I wanted to know what happens right from the beginning, and Jubilant was a very nice place because they are a contract research organization. They take up projects at different stages of development, and that's precisely what I'm doing. As of now, I'm learning how a drug is discovered. 6 years from now, maybe the story will be very different. But now I'm just learning how a drug is discovered from the beginning. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. Again, it shows how sometimes marriages or the keenness to for a wedding as well, it's also very good. It helps. But I know it's very important to say that because the way that your training has been a strong setup, which is the basic research, fundamental research, and you go on and you look at different avenues, and your I think the openness to look at those avenues and go towards it is something that I think is a need to inculcate as well. With this, I will not try to summarize what I think everybody has said. We have heard that. We have 15 more minutes, I think, because we are late already, but we have 15 more minutes. I think we'll do it the next career day. No, let's say, okay, how many vote for that? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I think I'll do a quick one. I'll see you later. So primarily my training has been in neuroscience. I did my postdoctoral as well in neuroscience, trying to figure out how presynaptic neurons, still the myth, there are two stories, two ways that people look at in terms of presynaptic death in neurodegenerative models. One is alpha-synuclein based aggregation, and the other thing is that how dopamine, if not regulated to go back to vesicular synaptic vesicles, if they are in large amount in cytoplasm, can be toxic to the cell, hence leading to the death. And that's why sometimes L-DOPA, if given long-term, can increase the neuronal death. So that was the work. But at the same time, I got a fantastic opportunity, and I think which has at least helped me for sure, and we'll see how it goes next. I got a chance to did kind of a management training with QB3, which is a combination of UC SF, UC Berkeley, and UC Davis, and work with Burrell at that time, which allows you to, while I was doing postdoc, I was kind of doing evening training. It was not a degree, but training where we would go and attend for a year classes with management guys, scientists, regulators, and all those, and take idea to IPO or biotech innovation. And that sounded very, very exciting to me in terms of how things are happening, because for such a management training, if you're not a postdoc at UCSF, it would cost a bomb. So I was taking a free ride that I was getting. And that also helped me to understand what's going around. And while I was doing it, it kind of perhaps touched some of the exciting points that I was looking for in terms of looking at a science from much more broader perspective, in terms of not only one particular scientific questions, but how scientific question can go further on. So in a way, again, I did something that was free for others. I started pro bono consulting for startups in UCSF Garage. So primary idea was that, those are startups which come out of UCSF as a postdoc or a PI who start a lab. They find money, seed funding from NIH, SBIR and all, but they don't have people who can help them understand what is the broader perspective of such a technology. And I worked for 3 or 4 companies like that. I didn't get a penny back. But the idea was but what I got in return was humongous understanding, a huge understanding of how things are being done. And that's where I said, okay, this is very exciting. I could have gone in the favor of management consultancy, which is absolutely different thing. I actually, I got through one of the top 3 management consulting firm in Chicago, and I was looking for opportunities where I could actually perhaps be there, where I can understand science, do a little bit of science, and also still promote innovation from the science. And that's where I think, and I can tell you how mentors play a larger role. In Berkeley, Vijay was visiting, and I said, met him over dinner in Berkeley. Of course, I took a BART and went to Berkeley and said, okay, I hope it works out well. And over dinner, I told Vijay that I'm not looking at purely an academic setup. I'm not looking at purely a company setup. I'm not looking at a management setup as well, consulting setup. I'm looking at somewhere. And then he said that we are looking at possibly of something, an organization which could look into that aspect. And why don't you, and the organization was not set up there. This is late 2008. And saying, when you're ready, just tell me, we are already looking at it. So the way Vijay works is that, okay, drop me a line, I'll take care of it. So I went home, of course it took an hour, and I wrote a mail. 2 minutes later, he gives me 3 options saying, Taslim, choose one. No kidding. And this was very, very fast. That's how mentors have helped. I came back here in 2009, early March. Organization is still not there. The perceptions that Vijay has given, Jitu has given, I'm sorry, nobody is there. Right? So it's absolutely visionary, but still in future. Nothing is on ground. Nobody knows that organization. It's not there. I went to Sri because he's one of the founder. I went there. Again, I said, okay, for 4 months I have been talking to these guys. The picture is something different. It's not there. But also at that time, I saw an opportunity to now perhaps contributing, building that organization, which was a challenge by itself. But it's a fantastic ride. 5 years back, we have started CCAM. It has been fun ride, has done well. It has perhaps also not, I think it can do better as well. But we have given separate flavors. And the freedom that has been come from the founders, from the board, from the top management has been fantastic. So long story short, it has been fun ride. Something that we are hoping to actually embark on or perhaps give a flavor is something that we are building on, something called taking academic discoveries, which happen. A lot of work happens in academia. We publish great papers. We've now started patenting as well. But what we have realized that it not necessarily goes directly to industry, because industry, it's not systemic validated. It is not translated to be industry ready. And we are hoping to start a program called Translational Accelerator, which will take academic discoveries which cross across the criteria of being exciting, having application, but not ready for industry. Can we take it to that route? And then give it to industry saying that, hey, you said this is exciting. We have done what you wanted to. Can you take it now? So this is a long story short. Thanks. So again, so sorry if I went along, but when you speak about yourself, it's always passionate. I don't think I say those many things at home. I'm not allowed to, rather. But let's go and now open up. I think now we have 10 minutes left. Open up questions. Please do ask questions, because we wanted it to be not give you a flavor of what has happened here, but also to let you ask questions if you see some sort of an alignment with thoughts that you're having right now. I think there's real, except me, there's a real experience right here. So please ask questions to them, and we'll see how we take care of them.
So this is sort of general question to
you should be asking this question, because this is what I was talking. It's called growing up. You know, you're finished a PhD, right? Yeah. Now, if you actually looked at the core experiments that were needed to do your PhD, how long would that have taken? Would it have taken 5 years? And how come, why were you spending all your time going around? Because it's a process called discovery, okay? And life is about that. Life is a journey. Life is not a destination. Life is the journey that you enjoy. If you've been enjoying yourself every moment of the way, you're really very lucky. And that's all it's about. It's not about getting somewhere, yesterday, today. Figure out what really makes you happy, and as long as you can broadly say, okay, today what I'm doing is kind of aligned to that, my idea of happiness, that's all it matters. And you end up doing some amazing things. If everybody had such a clearly charted out path, it'd be all very boring. Okay? So forget about all the people who say, why did you do this? What's your hurry? However fast you go, you're only going to end up 6 feet under the ground. or up in the air, whichever way you look at it. So enjoy it. Okay, enjoy the discovery, make a difference, have a great time, don't care about anybody else. Okay, and as about women and careers, I think it's important to take a break. You guys do amazing things for whatever you do for. I think to hell with anybody who says it's wrong to take a break. Take a break, actually enjoy doing what you do. Come back. And if you don't find a place that appreciates what you've done, that's not the right place for you.
I have a slightly different take on that. By definition, doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results and different things in life is called insanity. I come from psychiatry. So just be sane and keep changing and find happiness in everything.
I have two questions, again, not necessarily for the panelists, but anybody in the audience. I keep asking this again and again, and I do get mixed reviews, so I'm probably trying to do a statistical analysis of all the answers I get. When you're applying for a company, is a postdoc always better than just a PhD? Or like you say, selling yourself is more important than what you have on degree, what you have on your paper, A. Secondly, there are a lot of companies, at least software or other companies, where you join a company and they do promote you to do a higher course. So is such an option available for biology as well? That is, I join a company and something related to my work, I would like to do a postdoc. Do companies encourage something like that for students?
He was hoping to get away. And I think
okay, so yeah, I think when a company is looking for a candidate, honestly, we don't really expect you to know what the company needs you to do. They expect you to have strong fundamentals, and you should be trainable. That's basically what you're looking for. So I don't think having an additional postdoc really matters. As for doing postdoc through the company, that I've not heard of, but our company have MSc students who are going in for PhD at CMC and Manipal University and other places. That we've done. But they do go out for courses. They are sent out for specialized courses on, in the field of work, but not necessarily a postdoc.
So I'll just add a couple of comments. So for any role, there is a criteria, right? So the criteria requires a PhD, and you have something more than that. Nice to have. Does that enable you to actually get the job? The answer is no. Okay. The question is, how do you actually perform at the interview? And at the interview, depending upon the role that you're looking at, those facets of whether you'd be able to be a proper fit for the job, based on both your functional and or other soft skill basis, will actually enable you to get the job. Everything remaining the same, if you have a postdoc, that will obviously help.
Yeah, a quick comment on that. Having experienced at Pfizer for many, many years in recruiting PhDs and postdocs, invariably, if your PhD work is in an area that's of interest, So you can go and join the company right away and start working on day one. Then it's perfect. Postdoc experience is not as important. But otherwise, it's always important to have postdoctoral experience so that your experience and knowledge broadens beyond what the company is looking for.
So if you actually join right after a PhD versus after a postdoc, do your role differ? Like,
I give a very different answer from all this. I have a different take on this. I have taken postdocs. There are people who returned from phenomenally great places, but they couldn't work in this dust and heat. There's a guy with M Pharmacy who came from JSS to me. I gave him a PhD. I have another MSc biochemist who did PhD in working in T-cell sciences in US. And there is another girl who did PhD and is totally doing IT work in England. But that's a different thing. But these people have shown an ability to solve problems. What the company all the time looks, especially in biotech space, are you a problem or are you a solution to the problem? Okay, if you are going to be a problem solver, I will give any amount, I will give you any position. What's wrong with that? I mean, you can lead a group of five PhDs, even if you're an MSc and you have all the thoughts and all the abilities. I think we need to look at that. The way you ask that question, it depends on, when I see in the interview, what are your abilities? If your abilities of the leadership are showing through, then I would like to come into a leadership position and take that lead. See, if you see, most of the companies are trying to delegate the work so that it gets done with certain amount of efficiency. So all the time you're looking for leaders. In fact, most of the interview is about, 70% of the interview is about soft skills. What kind of human being you are. Your qualifications come later.
I just want to make one more comment about, women who take breaks. And I think not only women should take breaks, men also should take breaks. Okay. But definitely women. So I think in Novartis, at least what we have, we do actually offer women who take breaks to come back. Again, it depends on the set of criteria you have. It doesn't matter if you're taking a 2-year break or 3-year break. It really doesn't matter. So do we welcome you if you have the skills to be able to get a particular role? The answer is yes. Okay, a big yes. So that's the thing. At least there's also another thing. I think companies are evolving in that. Just for your information, we have something known as a 60-day work from home policy. Okay, 60 days you can actually work from home. So there are folks who work in Hyderabad, but actually do. They live in Mumbai, they live in Delhi, they live in Calcutta, they live all over the place. And we simply offer that. Because the question is not about in science. If you can, in certain areas, you can actually enable your work from wherever you're working. Your brain is still working. So, okay. More questions.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a very general question to the panelists as well as to Mr. Anthony and Pfizer. So the thing is, for many of us, the pharma industry and the healthcare industry is actually a very attractive option to go to because we do have that skill set, be it computational or experimental, and it also gives us some set of accomplishment to go into actual drug discovery which can help people around. But last year the judgment with the Novartis case on Gleevec, Mr. Shahani, the MD of Novartis, had actually said that they will be very cautious in investing in research and development in India. And he even said that, we might have to refrain because of these patenting issues. And it's understandable, but even for a country like India, where a large population is quite poor, we do need some amount of research which can cater which can result in low-cost solutions. So it's a very general question. So how does the industry, try to change its approach or develop an approach where you can give really high quality in products and which involve a lot of research, but which will actually benefit those in countries, in developing countries like India, who cannot afford expensive medicines.
My thought is that we are all employable in these industries is because of we have been part of the WTO, and the reason, if you look at history, India was always making generic molecules. The fact that you could get paracetamol for such a cheap price was because we were making generic molecules, right? But because we are part of WTO, we need to be innovative, and that makes all of us employable, all of you employable. There are chances of getting, because you can't do the process patent and get, because earlier, if you had a drug, the drug was not patented. If you change the process of manufacturing the drug, you could escape the patent and make the drug, okay? But now we have it, now we are forced that because we are part of WTO, no molecule which is post-1995 can be manufactured. The drug is patented. So you can have multiple different processes, but still you cannot make the drug because the drug is, that's why we have to wait for the patent to expire, and now we are getting into this biosimilars, which you can't explore at that point of time. Only after the life of the drug is over, then only you can. So there is a lot of chances now for people like you to come into industry. It is absolutely true. But what the patent for Gleevec is that they were trying to make a minor modification and say that it was without any clear, this one, which is, I think, for our, this one, it is justifiable for a country like India. And it makes sense. If you make a major change and show that in the bioassays, in the clinic, it has done significantly well, then you have a new molecule and you have a new patent. That's my, this one. Here, colleague here could.
So I'll talk about Gleevec at the end. I'm going to talk about something else, and I'm going to answer that question kind of very differently. Because although I represent Novartis, I'm Indian first. I have practiced medicine for about 8 years, and I've had significant practice. The reason I didn't tell you in my journey, the reason why I went and I got selected at Novo Nordisk as regional medical director and then went up was because of my strong knowledge in diabetes. And for heaven's sake, I'm not gassing. I'm just telling the bare facts. One day, when I was giving a presentation in the Middle East, okay, on diabetes, I was talking about a particular drug known as Novomix 30, biphasic insulin aspart 30. We were about to launch it at that time. The cost of that drug was about almost 30% or 40% more expensive than a comparator human insulin. And so I gave the presentation, a scientific presentation. At the end of the presentation, there was a very mixed audience. One of my Caucasian counterparts asked me the question, if you were practicing today, would you prescribe this drug for every patient who required a premixed insulin? So I said, wow, what a question. Okay. I said, it depends where I am practicing. This is what I said. If I was practicing and I practiced in Lal Bagh, if any of you know Mumbai, I used to practice in Lal Bagh. Lal Bagh is it's in between Parel and Dadar. It's a lower socioeconomic strata. Okay. And 25% of my patients and my father's patients and my grandfather's patients were poor. We should not charge them a single paisa. I used to do 4 hours of practice in the evening after my work. I used to make a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. Okay, not only me, my dad as well. We used to make a lot of money. Yeah? But if we're still 25%, could not pay a single paisa. So I said, if I am practicing at Lal Bagh in Mumbai, some of my patients would receive Novomix 30 because they could afford it. Several of them, or most of them, could not, and I would use human insulin. So in life is not equal. Okay, life is unequal. given the option, but if I'm practicing in Dubai, I would write Novomix 30 for every patient. Why? Because health ministry pays for that. And because it is the best drug available in the market today. Okay. So the question about social medicine and giving drugs, I am completely bought onto it. I agree. That I believe that health is a basic human right. And giving drugs to people who deserve it is a basic human right. But we are born in an unequal society. Okay? And I also believe in something and that's why I work in companies like Novartis, is that we have to protect innovation. If you are doing business, anybody in this room, okay, if you are doing business and if you develop something innovative, which costs, and you have patented it, and that thing is copied by somebody else, and you have taken 10 or 15 years to produce it, would you feel good about it? And therefore, I'm being very sorry, I'm being very black and white. I'm not talking, there's no gray. Okay? And therefore, would you not go to the United States and patent it there if you are having a risk of it being copied here? I'm asking a very simple question. I'm not giving the answer to that question. I am stating it. Now, one more comment on Glivec. And that is a very, very highly debatable question. Glivec, before it existed as a drug, its chemical entity was patented. Subsequent to that, there was a significant change from that chemical entity to it becoming a drug.
Dr. Julius, I'm sure it's just the interest of time.
Sure.
If it can be taken offline as well. I'm sure this is a very important point, but yeah.
I just wanted to give the context, and please don't understand, I'm not one of those, high-ended guys from Novartis who's talking. I'm just talking bare facts.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that there is this opinion I had for a long time that, patent is the greatest obstruction for reaching some drug very cheap to the people. I don't believe in it. It's a whole humbug. Let me tell you, when all companies were selling HIV test at 55 rupees to the government, I supplied at 17 rupees. You know how much government spent on that 17 rupees? 110 to do a test finally at the end. What an inefficient system. Why the hell should company compromise all the prices, all the profits, if your system is inefficient? The best solution for that is actually services. No wonder I am today in molecular diagnostics. I have something like 100, my product is patented. It costs $100 for reagents alone. So when I asked the hospitals, they said it costs $1,000, only then they can give it to their patients. Today we made a model of completely services. We deliver it to the patient at exactly $200. I pick up the sample, bring it by flight, do it, and give the report, $200. So it's a health model, not exactly patent, that comes in the way of you actually reaching anything to the people.
Thank you. She has something to say. Yeah. Thank you.
I think your question was, you're worried that there may not be jobs if such something like this happens. But I think the fact is that India does represent today affordable innovation. And if all of you who have done a PhD and taken 5 years to do what you could have done in 1 year, is because failure is inherent in innovation. And there is a huge cost of failure. So what actually India and the education that people like you receive is to make innovation affordable simply because it's much cheaper to do innovation here. We're not talking services, we're actually talking innovation with highly trained people working on problems of relevance. And when you're working on problems of relevance, it does cost money, right? You have to pay all the salaries. And it's highly possible that 9 out of 10 solutions will not work. And who's going to, if you have a limited amount of money, it is highly also possible that because it's affordable to do it in India, it's more likely that we can come up with very unique solutions for the, and that is the opportunity, is that we represent affordable innovation and a great chance to pick up problems that are relevant not only to us but to the world and produce amazing new solutions which can be affordable. Okay.
Thanks. I think we have to look for now burning questions. I think the issue itself is dynamic enough for a more discussion. But I think if there are questions that we can take, Ariel, you have to have something else or on the same topic?
I just
If
wanted to add to the previous question, but let me just say, I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling really inspired to go out and solve some big problems, right? But I just wanted to add one thing on to the question that she asked about women taking break from the workforce. I just wanted to add on to the view from my side, right? So I was, I had my child when I was employed at Codexis. And let me tell you, from the women's standpoint, it's really difficult. It's an extremely difficult phase trying to manage your work and the child, right? Because, at Codexis was a truly, truly supportive company for women as they went through this. I was fully 9 months pregnant and sitting in those project meetings, and I would tell them, I'll do it. And they would look at me like, I don't think so. It's very difficult, right? And then you go through the whole phase of trying to raise a child. The only way you can come back and stay relevant in the workforce is actually completely dependent on you. I've known a lot of friends who've soon become irrelevant to the workforce because you can take a break, and most companies are very supportive of it, but it's very difficult to stay relevant while you're on break. And that is completely dependent on you. And unfortunately, just coming back after a break and saying, okay, I'm back, the company can't do anything about it. Because if you can't come in and do your job exceedingly well and do it the same way that you did it before you went on a break, then you are irrelevant to the company. So just keep that in mind for the women in the audience.
Thanks. We are looking for perhaps last or two last burning questions. Last question.
I actually had a question that may be of use to the audience. Taslim, it's for you.
No, we close. Let's do that. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, no, you were saying something about CCAM starting something to accelerate translational knowledge development. Could you give us specifics, or is there some way in which the audience here can actually get the specifics? Maybe not now, but later?
Sure. No, so I think one of the projects that we are actually putting that on is, I think two of the investigators are here. Not from NCBS though. I think some fantastic work which went a few years back was in terms of the deciphering how HIV invades the human system and evades the immune system in human. It's fantastic work done by Professor Shahid Jamil, Professor Rath, who is right there, and Professor Jeetu Meyer. Excellent publication came out primarily in, and I'm going to actually say, so the discovery was primarily how, and they can say better than me, but how HIV's protein NEF can actually interact with monocytes, pull down their immune markers, which are infection markers, and stay very happily and grow and then infect another cell. So primarily this pull downs 8086, which are kind of infection markers. Say, hey, I'm infected, come and kill me. The immune system, how it works. It was right there, and we were looking at it multiple times and say, can we do something about it? And so be it. I think we discussed it multiple times with all primarily academic investigators who have led to this, perhaps a portfolio of publications which was around it, deciphering the entire work. We then thought that can we now use this knowledge which is there to say whether it can go forward. So we have started a program, primarily a small project, which actually looks at how NEF interacts with 8086. And if you can build up a small molecule portfolio or a natural product portfolio, which based on the structural work that is there, and perturb the interaction, does the system go back? So does the system allow the 8086 to go back on the membrane and restore the immune system primarily? So it's not, you're not working on HIV, but restoring the immune system. And just to update you, we have been in the project for the last 18 months, and the work looks very fantastic. We have actually crossed 3rd mark out of 5 marks that we have started for itself. The work is very targeted in nature. It's not academic discussion. It's very targeted, A, B, C, D, E. And it looks very promising. And I think this work can be done in an environment which is semi-academic, semi-industry, right? And that's where we are very excited about it. This project gave us confidence beats, so if I may use that word, to actually look beyond that and say, are there any fantastic discoveries which have been done by labs which are, absolutely phenomenal in nature, but there is no way it can go further. So can we do that? So that's the program about. I'm very happy to talk about it offline. You are right there, so we can do that as well.